If you follow golf, you've probably heard of the LIV Invitational Series that's stealing a lot of big names away from the PGA Tour. One of them is Phil Mickelson, who was last year's PGA Tour champion, who was recently grilled in a Q&A session because of his transition. We'll be covering that and more in today's video. First up, context for the session. Phil Mickelson became a professional golf player way back in 1992, starting off back then with the PGA. Since then, he's played at PGA Tour Series and championships almost every year, even winning last year's PGA Tour Championship. He's given almost 30 continuous years to the PGA, with 45 PGA Tour wins to his name to date, so no one can really say that he wasn't dedicated. Even in February of this year, Mickelson was pretty vocal about Saudi Arabia and their human rights violations, defending the PGA when the LIV began to rear its head in public. But things changed, and Mickelson clearly felt he had to as well. According to a report by the Golf Channel, Mickelson was offered $200 million to play in the LIV, a sum that many would not refuse, and which Mickelson didn't. Ahead of the opening of the LIV series, which took place on the 9th of June, Mickelson found himself in the UK in preparation. It was just outside London where he met reporters to speak about his upcoming appearance in the PGA, the first time he'd been in the public eye since his self-imposed exile began in February. The reporters wasted no time in bringing up human rights concerns, and Mickelson's previous rhetoric spouted in defiance of the LIV. Next, a PGA Tour ban. Before we get into the really cringy parts of the interview, we have to bring up the questions surrounding Mickelson's direct relationship with the PGA. This year, Mickelson skipped both the Masters, which he's won 3 times previously, and the PGA Championship. There's speculation about whether this was Mickelson's decision to step back or the result of PGA's policies leading to a ban. The last time he played for the PGA was in late January of this year. The reason for people thinking Mickelson is serving a ban from the PGA is because of comments made by Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan threatening players who take part in the series with banishment from the tour. Monahan also stated that he would not grant releases to participating players. When Mickelson was questioned about the rumors surrounding his ban or suspension, he declined to answer, saying he chooses not to speak about PGA issues at the moment. It's a strange situation. If he is serving a ban from the PGA, there's no apparent reason why he would have to keep it under wraps, considering he's already got some security as a player for the LIV. Perhaps we'll get answers in time regarding what's been going on behind the scenes. Until then, we're going to have to keep our eyes and our ears open for hints. Now, opening with an apology. Mickelson began his press conference with an apology, but it might not be what you expect. He actually apologized for the comments he made back in February when he was critical of the Saudi Arabian government and their history of human rights violations. Back then, he said that they were scary to be involved with, but during the conference, he apologized for potentially hurting anyone with those words. Reporters rightly brought up that interview and the recent assassination of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi by the Saudi government in 2018 as evidence for the human rights violations. Mickelson barely addressed it, saying he knew what happened and doesn't condone such acts, but he still thinks the LIV can be a force for good in the world of golf. The reporters didn't buy any of that and saw through the empty platitudes, and what followed Mickelson's apology was half an hour of intense grilling that we think he handled really poorly. Next, sports washing and hypocrisy. One of the first indirect jabs at Mickelson cut straight to the point, with a reporter asking if he was worried he'd be perceived as a tool to sports wash the rocky history the Saudi government has with human rights. Mickelson in turn replied with the same line about not condoning human rights violations, like he was stuck on a loop with nothing of substance being said, once again also saying that the LIV series can do a lot of good for the world. It reads like a generic pageant show speech about world peace, and that wasn't lost on reporters who continued to apply pressure on that point. The point that was trying to be made here was that the Saudi government is trying to garner good faith in the international sphere through the use of their wealth in the hopes that their mistakes would be overshadowed. The reporters there did a pretty good job of trying to get Mickelson to admit the part he's playing in that. They then went on to talk about his apology, asking whether he was apologizing for speaking the truth or being a hypocrite and taking the LIV money anyway. Once again, Mickelson tried to circle around the main point and instead said that though he understands people might be upset, he's doing what's best for him at the present moment and what's good for the game. It soon became clear that Mickelson wasn't going to give anything up, repeating the same lines over and over again until the session concluded. Whether or not the players that are getting involved with the LIV should be held accountable for their words and deeds when it comes to the sins of the Saudi government is a question that isn't easily answered. The issue of sports washing is only an issue if it succeeds, and that only happens if there are people indirectly endorsing it and those that unknowingly indulge in it. What we can say, though, is that the LIV is definitely shaking things up in the golf world, whether it be for good or bad. Now, in other news, DeChambeau signs on to LIV. Bryson DeChambeau is the 2020 US Open winner, having won at just 26 years of age. This is huge for the fledgling league because it offers more credibility. At the moment, most of the big league players with amazing track records that have transitioned to the LIV are past the age of 40. The perception was, therefore, that the new league is for breakaway players that are in the later stages of their careers, desperately looking for relevance and wealth elsewhere. DeChambeau does away with that, making it seem less like some kind of novel reunion of veteran players, a la the likes of ensemble movies like the Expendables series. DeChambeau is now the youngest and most prominent name associated with the new league, and might set a dangerous new precedent that could see the PGA scrambling to regain a footing. It's only a matter of time before similar young talents like DeChambeau join in the LIV feeding frenzy. Next, Carrie Webb, still disappointed. As a member of the World Golf Hall of Fame, Carrie Webb's opinions carry a lot of weight. She's one of the most decorated female players in the sport of golf and has done more time than most that venture out onto the green. In a recent interview, Webb was asked about her views on the LIV turmoil and if it might soon affect the LPGA, the female arm of the PGA. Webb's answer was quite to the point. She wants as many women as possible to have the opportunity to play the game, and the LIV just doesn't have that background. Her stance is that as a woman, she should necessarily stand with all women, and supporting the LIV would be supporting a government that doesn't uphold the rights of its women. When asked about her childhood idol, fellow Aussie Greg Norman, she reiterated her disappointment that she'd expressed in an earlier interview. Norman has been the face of the LIV series since the beginning, and for Webb, it felt like the child in her had died when she'd heard where Norman's support resided. Lastly, LIV series tees off. This Thursday, the Invitational that has completely upended the world of golf finally teed off. It's been months of rumors, speculation, ill will, bad-mouthing, and ethical dilemmas, but the first ball was finally struck despite all of that. The first tournament in the LIV Golf Invitational London, taking place in the titular city, and is being live-streamed online social media, as well as traditionally broadcasted on television. It's a tournament tailored for remote viewing, with its structure differing from regular tournaments. Instead of 3 players teeing off together at the number 1 hole, the tournament begins with every hole being teed off from simultaneously, so there's never a dull moment for the viewers at home. The new series also has a blend of team-based and individual competition, both being run concurrently. There are 12 teams consisting of 5 members, and as part of the winning team, an additional $3 million is awarded. The individual component works as regular competitions do. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think the PGA should be treating Mickelson like this, or even there are other players that are participating in the LIV? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.